Hello everyone, welcome to what if I was thinking about recently. A darker turn, if you will. What if Deku had Dead by Daylight as a quirk? On the lines of being very powerful in his own right in this what if, he's gonna be very dangerous. And what do I mean, Dead by Daylight, as a quirk? I mean, he's gonna have a pretty large majority of abilities, pretty decently. And wow, is he gonna be pretty flippin' scary at the same time. To explain the quirk, I will give some basic instructions on the quirk. The quirk is almost as a, if you haven't figured it out, it will only work at nighttime. It doesn't work during daytime. During a certain at least abilities of his quirk won't work. He won't be able to use his full power at night, morning nor day, but when it hits night, he's practically like Escanor, like the reverse version of Escanor. If Escanor got his power from the moon practically instead of the sun. So yeah, pretty overpowered. And anyways, let's stop the what if. Anyways, as Zuko Midoriya is born, he is born at nighttime. Specifically 3 a.m. to be exact. And he would, how would you say? As soon as he's born, there would be instant chill inside of the nursery room. An instant chill. As everyone gets to chill their spines. Something that was awkward about the, how you say, boy. There's something off about the boy. Everyone got bad vibes from him, as fear was kind of leaking out. As Inko, depending on what you all want, I'm gonna make 2 versions of this. Technically 2 versions. I'm gonna make the light version, I'm gonna make the dark version. What do I mean? One's gonna be, the storyline's gonna be darker than the other, practically. Anyways, besides that, born instantly, besides the entire chill and, the entire room dropping like all the way to flipping 20 degrees Celsius, flipping freezing in the room. So, yeah. Also, by the way, the quirks are sentient. What do I mean? Quirks, it's technically not a quirk, I guess. Technically is, but not complicated. But anyways, Deku has this amulet on him. What? No, should I give him that? No, that'd be too. Reality time, whatever. I won't have that. That'd be too overpowered. Anyways, what would happen is that Hisashi would kind of, grab some milk, go to the store, grab some milk. If you know, you know. I got that joke. I need to stop. Anyways. Deku, it's weird. Every time someone's alone with Deku can't be left alone at all. You can't leave him alone. Because every time he's left alone, like everything in the room all lights in the room just vanish. Like they're not existent in the room. His eyes are very sensitive to light as well. So he usually has to stick to shadows and always have a hoodie or something on. So yes. So, as you know, who should I have him summon first? Also, by the way, he will also have the DLC characters. He's not just going to have the basic ones. He's gonna have all the characters from Dead by Daylight, not just the basic ones you see on screen. So yes. Anyways, so from what we can tell, his quirk it's unique. We're unable to find any type of quirk resemblance inside of his blood genes. But we do find that something does start acting up as soon as it does turn nighttime. We're not sure on what happens, but his genes, DNA genes, are changed. We don't know how, but we just know somehow they changed. In more of a, it's complicated to say, but he has a chemical inside of his blood that provides fear, you would say. Or more of the line of, if you smell the blood or smell him in general, you would start to hallucinate to a certain extent. We're not sure how it works, but it only works at nighttime, Mrs. Inko Midoriya. As now, something, if you want to know how they found this out, he was kind of in, a room alone. Also, there was a specific, who should he sound first? I'll say the reason they found this out is because they found him playing with someone or something. Technically someone, I guess, depending on the way you see it. But anyways, he was playing with someone. As the doctor closes and opens his eyes again and again, as the entity kind of disappears and reappears. Being a little awkward, that is how they would find out that Deku has some type of ability of some sort. So they kind of see it as a new generation of a quirk. Not generation, but some type of fear-based quirk. They wouldn't know how it works, but they would just say the basics that he's able to... They write it down as either illusions or just, I guess, mind manipulation to a certain degree with a type of smell. If you smell it, you can, see what he sees, practically. And that will come in very useful in later video. Anyways, what would happen to Deku is that Deku wouldn't be afraid of anything. At all. He wouldn't be afraid of anything. He also, the weird thing about baby Deku is that he would never cry, which is very weird. As the doctor saw it. It's unnatural for a baby to not cry at some points. Deku does not cry at all. As for now, I will only give him one person for now. Only one of the Dead by Daylight characters. And if you know which one has resemblance with a child in their backstory of the character, then go watch every single origins of the Dead by Daylight characters. They each have their own origins. To a certain degree, of course. Anyways, Deku, the reason he doesn't cry is because this sensation of, a person looking at him and making sure he's alright would kind of give him a warmth feeling. Kind of like someone's there, to protect him. Some type of, vibe, practically. So he never really cries until the age of... When would he meet Katsuki? I say he meet Katsuki as either 2 or 3. As days go on, Deku's, people... It's weird. People only... They see the character, or they see this entity besides Deku. But it's more of the lines of... Not directly, but more of a mirror standpoint. Like the only time you can see the entity with a deku is when you're with a mirror, which is practically like a reverse vampire almost. You can't see them in real life, but when you look at the mirror, you can see them directly when you look in the mirror. So yeah. They would see this as a type of maybe sentient illusion quirk. So they just put it down as, I guess, protector illusion. So yes, they would notice that anytime somebody tries to do anything, like not do anything, but kind of bother Deku, the entity would kind of move to a certain point to scare off or kind of just prevent anyone from annoying Deku, either by standing in their way or just by giving them a look. The ability right now isn't as aggressive as it will be in the future, but when Deku is, he's going to get abilities pretty fast, so yeah. So when Deku is about 2 years old, Deku, it's weird. He doesn't act like a normal person does. He's very quiet as a child. Usually children are very loud and whatnot. Deku's actually very quiet and pretty smart for his age, which would unease Inko, but at the same time she'll just think of it as kind of a mutation to his quirk, almost. As no one really see the entity at morning or at day, but the only way they will be able to see the entity is by looking at a mirror. That is the only way they will see it during the day. But at night is a whole nother story. It's more of a his ability is complicated, the doctors say. They tried to enter the room, but the room was locked from Deku's side. They tried to enter it, but all they could hear was a whisper and kind of, giggling from Deku. Which will be the Huntress kind of playing with Deku while, protecting him. Reasons why it's not, it is more aggressive, but not, kill on sight aggressive, if you know what I mean. It will be more lines of make him happy and kind of avoid him being annoyed or any type of negative emotion. So Deku would always be strangely happy, but no one will really know why. Until, something kind of fades inside the room. What do I mean by that is they did try to, open the door, but they'll just think of it as, Deku's quirk activating as he's in his, I say crib. He's in his crib. And they're checking on the cameras to see what's happening as they see the entity full on. They see the entity. Like, they see the Huntress full on. Like, full on seeable, viewable with the visible eye. But it's only because of the cameras. But when they look through the window of the door, they don't see anything. As they would see that the door's blocked off with a wooden plank. As someone else enters the room without actually, opening the door. Fading through the room. As now you have, what was his name? I need to flip him. It's been a while since I played Dead by Daylight. We're in the flip of my phone. Oh, Dead by Daylight. Come on. I believe it was the Wraith, I believe. Okay, here's the range. Trapper, I think Wraith, which will be okay, yeah, I was correct. It is Wraith, which is the second one you see on the screen. The one with the spiky hair, the one with the spikes is hair. So yeah, he will get that as a 2-year-old, as people will be confused and kind of scared. But the huntress will get in the way, as they will kind of not make noise, but on the sense of kind of nodding to each other, as they both stand next to Deku. As they kind of just stand there like statues, practically. And, time to time we'll play with Deku, kind of having a system going on, kind of like at this time, you play with Deku, you do things with Deku and whatnot, practically like, what was it? Like what was the word called? Routine. That's what it's called. Like a routine with Deku. They would play with them, and this is all happening in one day, by the way, when he's 2. And eventually, Deku does get hungry, and the Wraith would kind of get out the room, going through the door, and kind of, there are illusions. They're not, full form yet. Wait, it is night, so I guess he would open the door because he is in full form. So when it's morning time, they're in spirit form, but when it's nighttime, daytime spirit form, nighttime real form. So yeah. So he opens the door and kind of just floats to get food. As people are scared of this, they do see this happening. Oh wait, I guess yeah. He is still in the hospital due to them not. They're trying to find out exactly what his quirk is. So, the Wraith will kind of look for food and whatnot, and eventually will find Deku's favorite food, which will be, let's see, let's see what would be his favorite food. I don't know. I'll just say he'll just bring out Deku's favorite food, as Deku eats it and kind of, goes back to sleep. While the Wraith was gone, the Huntress and Deku were, playing around, being kind of a guardian to Deku. As to the more Deku grows up, the more aggressive these spirits will become. As Huntress will be the mother figure, the Wraith would be the somewhat of a father figure, and if you can tell, and whatnot. So practically, eventually, these spirits will kind of, they would give Deku something, which they thought it would be a little bit weird. The doctors will think it would be a little weird, as, a red bowl pops up. Hold up. Yes, as a red bowl pops up. And this bowl, they wouldn't know where they got this bowl from, but when Deku's quirk activated, there were, killings around the city. Around Hosu and all that. But they would always see, they wouldn't think of this as Deku's quirk, but they would think of it more of a coincidence. And if you know what I mean, whenever Deku is alone, because he is alone at some points in time, either with Inko or, sleeping. or just playing around in general. The Huntress will kind of, if you know, you know. So yeah. People would, show up dead eventually, and, when Deku did, when it was Deku's birthday, he would be given kind of a red bowl, with a red liquid, and kind of drink it in a sort of way. To represent blood points. If you know what they are and you played Dead by Daylight, then you know what I mean. Eventually, when he did turn 2, the blood points would get him the Wraith and whatnot. As now we go to present time, as Deku is now 2.5. As Deku, he would be very smart as, I guess, a baby can, I guess. He would know the basic functions of opening, closing, just good at puzzles. He'll be decent at puzzles. It would take him a while to figure the puzzles out, but he would still find out the puzzles. And I don't mean, just normal baby puzzles. I mean, like, full-on, real-ass puzzles. Like, puzzles that it would even take, adults to kind of take a while to, put together. As, Deku is rolling around, he doesn't have much friends, or friends at all, which will kind of have Inko a little sad for him, but at the same time, when Deku is, he's still 2.5, so I'll say, Deku is, he's happy. Inko would kind of see this as, they make him happy, so she'll kind of, just leave the quirk alone. Because they'll say it as a nightmare or illusion-based nightmare / sentience quirk. Yeah, a lot of things. But. Or they'll just call it Nightmare Guardian, as they'll call the quirk. As there are, the killings they're not low killings. They're pretty high in the numbers. I'll say every week, or, every day, I should say, because technically it's my day, so yeah. I'll say every day is like how much players are allowed in one game? I'll say about, I believe 6, in a game. I believe 6 are allowed in the game. No, it was less than that. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was 5 or 4. So every night there'll be 5 or 4 people, missing. Either going missing or, end up dead. So yes. And Mitsuki, Inko would eventually, take Deku to Mitsuki, and Deku would kind of... Deku would see Mitsuki as interesting. He would just kind of spectate Mitsuki's and Bakugo's relationship. How, Bakugo's, ego, while Mitsuki's trying to, flatten him out to, make him a lot more nicer. Deku sees this as intriguing. As, a person is. As, he's only able to watch due to, him not able to, physical actions yet. Kind of, walking and whatnot, but besides that, nothing else. He kind of just sits down, walks around for a bit. He's just chilling, practically. As a couple months later, Deku would turn 3. As another entity would appear, which would be... Showed up. Where was it? I believe it. The third entity is called the Hag, I believe. Yeah, the Hag. Yes. This will be the most aggressive entity. Or at least, the most aggressive present entity. Huntress would stay by Deku, as they would kind of switch roles. Huntress and the Wrath, and then eventually the Hag will appear as they would see that the Wrath, okay, when Deku was 2, the Huntress and Wrath changed places. Huntress stays with Deku, Wrath, goes on killings. And what so and so forth. As every year on Deku's birthday, Deku would get a bowl of blood. Or, in some other ways of getting blood. As Deku is now 3 and it is his birthday, as I'll say Wrath is giving Deku blood, as, he unlocks the Hag. The Hag is the most aggressive yet. So, not just the Wraith now, but also the Hag will go out. And people would see this as more of they're going somewhere, because they'll say as soon as they're out of, 10 meters of Deku, they kind of vanish, I guess. Not in a teleportation standpoint, but more of a spiritual standpoint. And, Inko would kind of just see this as they're probably just going to get food for Deku. As, Deku does, how would you say? Deku's quirk relies on blood to a certain degree. As the more blood he eats or drinks, the more he can unlock and whatnot and so forth. Bakugo, he wouldn't, due to him being smaller, he wouldn't really understand this, but see Deku as kind of a freak due to him having sentient quirks. Or Bakugo would see this as sentient quirks. Eventually he would try to fight Deku, but the first time he did try to fight Deku, he kind of, be greeted by, a very menacing looking woman, or entity, you'd say, being the Hag. As Bakugo kind of be scared off by the Hag, as he would eventually become scared of Deku, but not to a great degree. He would be more scared of the Hag than any other. As Deku would, by playing, he kind of shifts, levitates items. What I mean by that is that he has some sort of, if you ever know who Wanda is, or Scarlet Witch, which is practically from DC. No, it's from Marvel. From Marvel, or the daughter of Magneto, Scarlet Witch, which is probably that ability, but on a lower degree. More or less of less power and more on the scared side or fear side of the abilities. As Deku would, I guess he would be emo, not really emo, but on the lines of kind of liking scary movies and kind of previewing them, watching them multiple times on how the survivors can survive or make different choices when they do die. He would watch just random movies as he would see, things happen. As normal characters that die in horror movies are usually dumb, and that he can usually kind of think a way of them to survive and all this other jazz. Survive, fight back against the killer, or whatnot and so forth. Thinking of strategies to survive. As every time Deku does sleep, he would be transported to this other world. He has complete control of this world, but it would be more of the lines of... What I mean by this is that when he sleeps, he's transported to the Dead by Daylight maps. If you know what the maps are on Dead by Daylight, then you know what I'm talking about. That's practically his mindscape, or dreamscape, you would say. That's where he is teleported when he sleeps. And yeah. Deku doesn't really have to do anything. He usually just allows, the killers to, be themselves. He wouldn't know any of this is happening, but he would kind of just see them as, leaving and then, just reappearing with either food, gifts, or other things like that. Deku would also be given weird antiques, either by, Huntress, the Wraith, or the Hag. And if you know what antiques I mean like the tombs, or statues, or other, items that you usually see in Dead by Daylight. Like the items you usually have to either break or the things like that, so you don't get captured by the killer or have your location found by the killer. So just, Dead by Daylight items practically. Like just antiques and whatnot. Made out of bones, just made out of anything practically. So Deku's room right now, he's not really an All Might fan. He sees All Might as more of a too bright for him. So you kind of like his room will be more of a emo-ish, I guess, having pictures and whatnot of the Dead by Daylight characters. As he eventually makes a symbol. What do you mean a symbol? I mean practically like a dash symbol. 5 dashes in a row. Or 4 dashes and, a dash crossed out. Making the Dead by Daylight symbol. And Deku would have this. He would have this tattoo or birthmark on the back of his neck. He wouldn't know why, because I'll say eventually, he'll eventually find this out, but he wouldn't know. He would just see it as a birthmark, so I guess. And Deku has now turned 4, as the Hag now brings up a bowl of blood, unlocking the... not doctor, but the nurse. Unlocking the nurse character from Dead by Daylight. As the nurse now appears, and it's kind of getting not crowded, but more of the lines of Deku needing a bigger room. Yeah. And these entities do become more aggressive as he ages. A lot more aggressive. Or, publicly at least. They do become a lot more aggressive publicly. Either by actions or movements. Not directly harming a person, but kind of telling them to, back off or you will get hurt kind of way. As Deku, he would know everything about each character, about the Huntress, Wraith, Hag, Nurse, Doctor, Trapper, and the Hillbilly, I believe his name was. Let's see, was I correct? Yeah, Hillbilly. Or at least not the Hillbilly yet, or the Doctor or Trapper yet, due to him not being of age to unlock them. And Deku, he would be a very smart child or baby, because he technically still is a baby. So Deku would unlock the nurse as any bruises or any injuries Deku would contain or get just by being clumsy or by accident in general or just bruises or wounds in general will be attended by the nurse, which will treat his injuries. As the nurse is more of the healer type, which will kind of, or at least to Deku, not much for everyone else. Kind of more, yeah. So the nurse heals Deku every time he has either a small scratch or something else. So yes, Deku would people, instead of people's corpses going in the streets, more of the lines of people going missing and being dragged somewhere. Dragged where? Well, they're usually getting knocked out and brought to Deku's dreamscape. How exactly? That will be a secret for now. As I guess Deku would be like what, in first grade, kindergarten, somewhere near that range. Deku, he wouldn't be bullied, but most of the time he would be more of neglected by others and kind of seen as a freak or more of a outcast. No one would really talk to him or anything like that. And Deku wouldn't really talk, because, he wouldn't really need to, due to, his guardians or his people see it, quirks, or sentient quirk, that kind of do everything for him. Or more of the lines do, the basic things. He still does have to do his chores himself. I'm just saying, just food or, water-wise, they'll kind of get for him. So, yeah. People would see him as more of a freak than anything else. So they would kind of be scared of him and kind of have rumors of Deku, kind of just random rumors. As we go to... let's see, who would try and believe Deku? Let's see what I can think of. We go to the police station, where the policemen try to figure out where people are going and see that each of these killings are being dragged to one place, but they wouldn't really see what place they go to, since when they hit, their place or a certain location where they all meet up, they kind of just disappear with the bodies and eventually end up in Deku's dreamscape. Deku would see this as amusing, but he wouldn't realize that these people are actually real, just dragged to his dreamscape. And there would be a sudden talk on the underground of Villain AU, or just villains in general, seeing that it's random people. It's not, it can be heroes, it can be villains. The only weird thing is that they can use their quirks when it hits, when they use their quirks, it's weird. When they're in the dreamscape, they're unable to use their quirks. But when they're outside in the real world, they're able to do so. It's just very ineffective. Or they usually dodge it, They only the Hag and other killers only go for either mid-range quirks or just weak quirks in general. Either being heroes, villains, or just normal civilians or vigilantes. Doesn't matter who it is, it's at random. This being the randomizer for a group lobby. As people, they don't really remember anything after they hit enter Deku's dreamscape. All they remember is getting knocked out and kind of just being here, I guess. Just appearing in this place. The survivors are kind of the people who actually go through the gate are kind of just let go in more the lines of the memories are erased practically. Their memories are erased. That's what I'm trying to say. They're erased when they hit the gate. So they can't remember nor, how would you say, have any conscience or any memory of or any instance. Any damage, injury, or wounds will kind of disappear. As when they do go through the gates, they would exit out of Deku's dreamscape or mindscape and kind of be teleported in a random location around the city or where they were before they entered. Of course, this will lead on to Deku becoming number 5, or it is now his birthday as he now turns 5, and if you know who's on 5, then you know stuff's about to get serious. As Deku, he has a calm, collective personality with a very mysterious persona. Every time he sees a person that is either, freed from his mindscape, which kind of, survives, and, goes to the gate, he kind of, if he sees them out in the real world, he kind of sees it as deja vu almost to having a dream about them. But meaning that they actually were a part of a dream, just their memory were erased, and so forth. Those who don't make it out of the dreamscape, who die, or, who kind of the timer of the game kind of runs out, they're kind of stuck there and kind of, move on. They kind of stay until the next game. Meaning that if you are not freed or exit or, go to any of the exits being freed from his mindscape, you stay for another game or another round of Dead by Daylight. They also would, have all their memories still intact, unlike those who make it out alive. They would have their memories intact and recall everything that's happened to them. As they either, find a way to escape, die trying, or actually escape, or have the same thing happen to them as they're stuck in the games, or Dead by Daylight, in Deku's head or mindscape. As Deku is now 5, as you know what happens, Deku gets blood, and Trapper reveals himself. As Deku, kind of the way is, things are very aggressive. What do I mean by that? I mean that Deku, he would kind of avoid people as well. People would avoid him, and he would avoid people. The only person who wouldn't avoid Deku, no, or anything, would be Bakugo. Deku would kind of like being alone due to him already having many people to either, I guess not talk to, but understand in a sense, or people just being there for him, being, the others. As the only one that's actually viewable now, or, actually able to be seen, are only 2 killers. Even in the morning time, they will appear, but they wouldn't have any type of bloodlust nor mentality to hurt others in the daytime. Kind of like a spider. Daytime good, nighttime they kill you, kind of. So, yeah. So, the only viewable people would be the Huntress and the Trapper. They would kind of be the only people actually allowed out of Deku's mindscape in daylight. So, Deku, or people would see this as more of a sentient Quirk active, or more of the lines of they just protect him and nothing else. So, yes. What would happen next? It will probably happen in the next episode. As I'll see you all later in the next episode. Bye-bye, everyone. Remember, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and leave a like in the video. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.